Chad, again with Foundation Digital Media, and I'm going to talk about Assignment 1, Pen Tool Basics. And I'm going to start with the project sheet here, which is a tool that I create for every one of my assignments. And hopefully it answers all the questions you have about the assignment. There might be some individual questions, but I think it really takes care of a lot of the basics. So let me just run over what this project sheet looks like, because you'll see it on every assignment. Here's the course name. In bold here is the assignment description of the assignment and why I'm giving it the purpose. Here's the process, which kind of goes along with this video tutorial that I'm doing now. The specs are kind of the specifics, like what am I looking for? On this one, I'll get into that. And then here's exactly what you will turn in. There's a schedule, and then I'll have video tutorials at the end. So that's kind of the overview of this. It's kind of all your information in one spot. And it's found in Canvas under assignments. You'll usually or always see the project sheet. Okay, so let's get into the pen tool basics. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see this a little better. All right, so we're going to be learning about the pen tool, and the pen tool is one of the basic and most useful tools in Adobe Illustrator. And it does take some time to understand and be proficient in the tool, and that's why we're starting like with the first assignment. So you can, by halfway or anyway, a little bit further in the semester, you'll get good and proficient at it. So the assignment is to trace over all the shapes provided in the Adobe Illustrator file. AI is Adobe Illustrator, if you didn't know that. You will use a stroke of 1 point and no fill color for all your shapes. Also, pick a bright or colorful stroke color so I can see the difference between what you're tracing and your work. I already mentioned the purpose, become familiar with Adobe Illustrator's pen tool. And another purpose is to strive for impeccable craftsmanship. You know, there's craftsmanship in a really nicely done chair, right? Some chairs you can feel them squeak and move, and that's not very good craftsmanship. A chair with good craftsmanship not only looks good, but all the joints are good, the chair is solid. So it's the same thing with digital files, is that it kind of looks good on the outside, and then as you know, generally, but as I zoom in closer and closer, it looks just as good. So go for impeccable craftsmanship. That's going to help you in the long run. Here's the process. Read over this project sheet. Download the Pen Tool Basics AI file. That's an Adobe Illustrator file that you'll open in Adobe Illustrator, number 2. And then number 3, beginning at the top of page 1, use the pen tool to trace all the shapes on page 1, 2, and 3. Page 1 just has angular shapes where you'll only use an anchor point. Page 2 and 3, though, you'll use anchor points and handles to create curved shapes. Complete all 3 pages. Save the document as you go, I would suggest. So if you're, the Adobe products are very stable, but if it crashes or computer shuts down because of battery or whatever, you'll have a backup. When you're done, save a PDF of the file to Portfolium, and then provide a link to that Portfolium project to Canvas when you submit the assignment. Specs, trace over all the shapes in all 3 pages. What you'll turn in, a digital PDF file with all the shapes traced on all 3 pages. Sometimes it gets repetitive, but many assignments, these are they help differentiate and give more information. The schedule is you'll receive it on, this particular class is going to be August 24th. Please check your project sheet for the dates for your semester, and this will be turned in a week later, or sorry, a few days later on Friday, August 28th. But check your schedule on your actual project sheet. And then I'll have video tutorials. Let me get into the assignment. So I've downloaded it and I've opened it in Adobe Illustrator. And this is page 1. You can see right up here, page 1. Here's our page 2. And then page 3 is at the bottom, just outlining some type. So I'm going to zoom in on this first shape, which is actually just a line. And let's talk about how we'll trace that. So first of all, I'm going to click on the pen tool, which looks like the nib of a fountain pen. And I want to change the color of this first so it fits to the assignment. So I'm going to change the stroke color to something bright that looks different than black. So I'm going to choose like an orange. And the fill right now is white. So let me pull up. So this is another place you can change your colors in swatches. You do it up here too, and also at the bottom of the toolbar, and you can see a bit of it here. But this is the fill, it's a solid rectangle, and this is the stroke, which looks like an outlined rectangle. So if you want to change your stroke color, the stroke has to be on top of the fill. Likewise, if you want to change the fill color, the fill has to be on top of the stroke. So whatever is on top is what will be changed when you select a new color. So if I wanted the fill color to be yellow, I'd select the yellow. If I want it to be none, I'd select the white box with a red line through it. So this is just what the directions ask. A 1-point stroke in a bright color other than black with no fill. Okay, so here we go. So to trace this line, I'm going to use the pen tool and click. And when I click, it makes an anchor point. I'll click at the beginning of the line on the left-hand side. And then I'm not dragging or anything, I'm just moving my mouse to the other side of the line, to the end point of the line, and I'm clicking. Okay. You can see Illustrator still thinks I want to continue the shape, and what I need to do is deselect the shape so I can move on to the next shape down here. So to deselect, I would go to the selection tool and click away from the shape. And you can see I'm a little off, and I would encourage you to look closely at your shape when you're done with it. When I zoom in, I'm really off. So to correct that, I'm going to use the direct selection tool. So if you remember, it moves, or it can select and move part of a shape. So I just want to move this anchor point here. So I've selected the direct selection tool. I'm going to click on that anchor point and drag it to the middle of the gray line, which looks to be about there. So that is very close, and I'm happy with that. I'm going to go down to the other end of the line, using the hand tool to get over there. Yeah, so it wasn't as good as I thought it was, but that's why I come in and zoom in close to correct it. All right, so that looks really good. I'm going to zoom out a few times. So my first shape is done. Oops. Okay. So now I'll work on the second shape, and I'll go to the pen tool. Now, while I'm using the pen tool, what I like doing is looking at the keyboard shortcut to get to it. So you can see the little name for pen tool as it pops up, and in parentheses there's the letter P. So if you click the letter P on your keyboard, you're going to go to that. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can get this right. Now here's another little tip. If you hold down, or if you click on cap lock, you will change from this little pen icon to like a crosshair. And the crosshair to me seems a little more accurate because I know just where I'm clicking. It's right where the where the two lines meet. And I'm going to hold down Shift to make straight lines. Okay, so I've just went from one end of the shape to the other, and I want to deselect. So, and now I'm going to give you another keyboard shortcut. I would usually go up here and deselect, but Illustrator, the people at Adobe know that you access the selection tool very often. So what they've done is they've built in a shortcut, keyboard shortcut, to get to that selection tool, and that is on the Mac it's Command, and on the PC it's Control. So you hold down that key and you go to one of the two selection tools, the last one that you used. In my case it was the direct selection tool, so I have a white arrow, and I click away from it. You can see that my shape is not selected any longer. I might zoom in and just clean that up. That means drag it to the right spot. When I say clean up. And I know I was off over here. Okay. Okay, looking good. All right. So my next, and you carry on and you'll work on all the rest of the shapes on this page. Now that you start making shapes, let me talk about creating a complete shape and an incomplete shape. So an incomplete shape is one where the lines do not connect. So let's say I drew a couple of lines here and maybe a line over here, and drew a line here, and I'm going to get close but not on it to illustrate a point. Okay, so let me select the shape. Now notice only half of the shape is being selected. When I click over here, these two lines are being selected, and when I click on here, only this one. So what I didn't do is start at one corner and work either clockwise or counterclockwise around the whole shape and get back to the beginning. So, and this is important. Let me show you why. Because when I try to fill this, and this is, we're not going to be filling in this assignment, but we will in the next. When I try to fill this, it doesn't fill correctly. F-I-L-L, not fill correctly. So the best way to do this is to start on one side and work your way around to the last side and click on the beginning anchor point that you started with. Notice as I mouse over that anchor point, I have a little circle next to my pen tool cursor, either in the target mode or in the non-target mode, but that circle means that I'm completing a shape. And notice how well it fills in. It fills in nicely. So be careful about how you complete those shapes. That's important. I'm going to move on to, change this back to no fill. I'm going to move on to curves. And I'm going to start with a little illustration, and that is how Illustrator makes its circles. When Illustrator makes a circle, it uses 4 anchor points. One anchor point is at the very top, the next is on the very left, the very bottom, and the very right. And this is the most efficient way to make a circle, and the smoothest as well. Here's what I don't want you to do, is to use the pen tool and trace like this. And even if it looked correct, like you followed a circle very nicely, if you zoom in, you can still see it looks not so good. So let's go in and talk about this first shape. We're going to consider, let's break this shape up a little bit, right? So it's basically 3 half circles connected together. So using that circle as an example that we just looked at, this top half of the circle, it should have a point on the very left-hand side. So I'm going to click at the beginning point here. the next anchor point should be at the very top, and the next on the very right. Now I know that's not following those lines, but I am putting in anchor points, and then we'll come back and make the curves. Okay, so now we'll consider this the bottom half of the circle. So very left, the very bottom, and the very right. And then another top half. Very top, very right. Okay, so I know I'm a little off on a few places, and I'm going to adjust that. Okay, so now that we have our anchor points in place, I'm going to use the pen tool and hold down Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC. And I get this tool I call the Flying V. And so it's a little V right there upside down. And if I go over a line, this gives me the option to bend the line and create handles. So here I am clicking and dragging. You can see the line is bending. And you can see the handles that show up right here and here. And these handles allow you to kind of micro adjust your curves. So that's what I'm doing when I'm adjusting the length and the angle of those handles until it gets to be something that looks right. I'll do that again for the next shape. And adjust the handles. Now, you know what, I should have showed you this, and this is really interesting. When Illustrator draws its circle, let's look at where its handles are. Exactly straight up, well, on the left-hand side, exactly straight up and exactly straight down. On the top and bottom, it's exactly flat and going left and right, exactly flat. So we could use that as a pattern to follow. And then we just have to adjust the length. Do that here. And again, I'm holding down Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC, and I've found that I'm not in the right spot. So I'm going to, again, use the Direct Selection tool and just drag that over so I am in the right spot. And then I don't think this is terribly in the right spot either. That's better. Okay, so now maybe we can get a little more accurate of a line. That's better. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the idea. Adjusting length of these handles and the angle until I get it just right. Do that again here. Okay, so that is that. Now I'm going to go to and skip this shape, and I'll go to this one because this one presents just some slight challenges. Use the pen tool. Click, go in the middle of the gray line, and then up to the very top. Like pretend like it's half a circle, right? And then to that side, and then hold down Shift and go to the end of the circle. Now, I'm going to use the pen tool and bend this out. I guess that's not very challenging at all, is it? But I guess I wanted to show you if you can make a corner with an anchor. So this is not a corner, it's like leaving it very smoothly. But if that anchor is up at a 90, then we do get a different angle from that. So anyway, that's that. Maybe I should just talk about this dig. Now we're just doing outlines again, so I'm just going to hold down Shift and going to go to the very, now see how this tails out? So I'm going to click on that and then click on this. And I'll go to the bottom of that, well, I'll probably go here and then to the bottom of that circle, to the left of the circle, to the top of it, and then back up to complete that. And then I'll go in and adjust some of these lines using the pen tool, holding down Alt. So this is very close to what we want, but I think it swings in just a little bit. Yeah. And then here I'm holding down Alt on the pen tool and adjusting those lines. And I see this little spur right here. I'll tell you how to get around that. The trick is to create two anchor points very close to each other. Let's do that. So I'm going to put now we're showing another part of the pen tool. To add an anchor point on an existing line, I'm going to move my pen tool over the line and see the little plus that shows up on the pen tool? That means it's ready to add an anchor point. So if I click, I've just added it. That's a new anchor point. See how it can move? Now, if I mouse over it, an anchor point, see the minus? That means I'm ready to delete an anchor point. There we go. But I didn't want that. I just want to show you it could do that. But see how it got rid of that spur and it evened it out? So that is what we wanted. Okay. And yeah. So we're slowly just kind of making some corrections on this. And that's even off. And I'm just holding down the Control key to adjust these anchor points. And then Alt key, or Option key, depending on the computer you're using. I'm a fan of the Macintosh, so if you catch me saying use the Alt key, or the Option key, that's why, because I'm on a Mac. Here we'll fix the spur again by adding an anchor point. This line's selected, so I'm going to mouse my pen tool over it. I see the plus, and I'm going to drag that down. Great. Great. Okay. And good. Okay. So that's the outside of it, and hopefully that helps. Okay, so finish this up, save it as a PDF. Here's how you save it as a PDF. File, Save As, and wherever you want to put it. Here's what it looks like. I'm going to save it as an Adobe Illustrator file right now. But if you change the format, here's the PDF. Now, one thing nice about a PDF in Illustrator, built in Illustrator, is that it acts like it's a native file. So if you save it as a PDF and then reopen it in Illustrator, it's completely editable. All the layers will be there, the type will be editable, your anchor points and handles will be there. So you could save it as a PDF and then come back and open it again and work on it later. And this is the file type that you'll turn in. Okay, great. So make sure you name it correctly and then get it turned in. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.